Okay, so I've just done a few stitches to show you how it works up and down, but this time I'm going to show you how to finish off. So when you either get if you're running out of thread halfway along, or when you get to the last two pleats, then to finish off, you can see where the thread is coming out of the bottom of the stitch there, and that's where I want to put the needle. So I want to put it down into the valley, but behind the last stitch. So what happens is when I pull my thread through, you can't see where I've actually finished. So we turn it over to the back, and I'm just going to put a knot on the back. So I go through the top of the pleat and then through my loop to pull it tight, and then you can do that twice if you want, just for added security, and then just nip that off. Okay. And then that's your half step wave. So in this bit I'm going to show you how to do the other half to make little diamonds out of your half set waves, and I'm going to come through as before to do my smocker's knot between the first two pleats in the valley, and I've got a knot on the end of my thread, sorry. Go through the left hand side of my first pleat and I'm ready to go. Now I need a down cable so that my thread will be coming out of the top of my stitch, ready for me to go upwards to match the cable next to it. So there's my first cable, it's a down cable. My thread's pointing in the direction that I can go, and because I'm travelling upwards, I put my thread down, and then I pick up the next pleat along and I match my cable on the two pleats above. And I'm just putting the needle in a needle width away from those threads so that my three threads sit next to each other rather than on top of each other. Now you can see why it was important to make that stitch just less than halfway, so that when I do my other half, the stitch is the same size. Otherwise you end up with a kite effect, whereas one half is longer than the other. So thread up to travel down. I've picked my pleat up, and I'm doing my down cable, so my thread is down. Thread down to travel up to make my cable stitch. Okay, it's always nice to pull the thread in the direction you're going, because then it makes your stitch sit nice and neatly. Okay, thread up because I'm travelling down, and then thread stays down for me to do my down cable. Thread down to go up. And my other cable, and you can see how it's forming little diamonds. So again, thread up because I'm travelling down, just picking up the top third of each pleat as I go. And I'm not pulling the thread too tight, just making the pleats snug. If you take too much of the pleat, say I'm just taking the top third, if you go too deep with the needle on the pleat, if I went all the way down there, then there would be less stretch in your fabric when you remove the pleater threads at the end of the smocking. And if you take too little, and maybe just take a couple of fibres, then the chances are the threads will break the fibres in your first wash. So it's just taking the top third so that you get the right amount of stretch when you remove the pleater threads, and it also finishes the same width that you wanted it to make up your project. So just carry on to the end, and you can see how it's making a nice diamond effect. So always thread up if you're travelling down, and thread down if you're travelling up. carry on to the end. And then we'll finish off as we did before. You always start and finish on the same pleat. Now this is my last cable, and as before, to finish off we put our needle back down where the thread is coming from, so into the valley and behind your last stitch. Okay, and then we tie off on the back, just through the top of the pleat. And then snip off our thread. And there we have the half step wave. We've done 2 rows which form a nice neat diamond, and the important thing is that when you go to the halfway point you go just less than halfway so that both stitches are the same size.